Okay, let us get started. What's up? I'm here. It's Tuesday, and I am live streaming per usual. My name is Mike Bifulco. I'm Director of Technology for the Gymnasium. Those were some scissors. And it is Tuesday afternoon. I get online every Tuesday to live stream my work process for you so that you can partake in learning and understanding of what it's like to be a software developer. I try and candidly work on whatever it is I'm working on without any prior preparation, with the sole goal of giving you an authentic experience. So my hope is that people will understand what it's like to do development in real time without seeing it in the context of a groomed course, so that you know what people run into day to day. A lot of the times tutorials you run into online of this and that tend to be very well planned, and for good reason. You learn more quickly if something is pristine and correct, but there is value to seeing what happens when things go wrong and how experienced people go through the debug process. And so that's why I'm here, to make mistakes, and hopefully we can all learn from it. A brief little rundown on the Gymnasium. If you do not know what it is, this is thegymnasium.com. It is a very cool, very free online code school where we give away for free, 100% free, self-paced video courses online in design and development of web technologies, as well as some other tools and strategies and philosophies that we think you should be privy to. We've got all kinds of great courses. I try and sort of pimp one of these each week. Let's see, what would I recommend to you this week? I think we have an updated Introduction to Node.js course, which you'll see if you go to our course catalog. This is updated for more recent Node syntax and content. It is a tremendous course. It will get you up and running in no time. And if you take this course, a lot of the stuff I'm doing on stream today will make a lot more sense to you. If you haven't taken Node yet, that's okay too, and hopefully you can get some value out of watching the stream. And if you have questions, I am here to answer them. Just as well are my brothers in arms joining on the stream, who are in the chat. Andrew Miller and Justin Gagne. They are about as knowledgeable as it comes across a broad spectrum of design and development and all kinds of cool stuff. So if you have questions and I don't see them, hopefully they see them and can and will answer them. Anyway, drop them in the chat, or you can find us on Twitter. My personal Twitter handle is Irreverent Mike, just like my Twitch handle. And if you happen to be watching this on Twitch, you can also watch it on thegymnasium.com for the duration of the stream, or afterwards. You can go to twitch.tv/irreverentmike and see this content afterwards. Goodness, and we also upload it to our YouTube channel, which you can go and find on YouTube by searching for Gymnasium and live coding, and you'll see me on there. We've got a whole playlist of my past streams for you to check out. So this is what we've been up to for the past maybe a little over a month at this point. I've only been working on this on stream explicitly to see a project through to completion. I'm working on a microservice for our jobs API for Gymnasium that will allow us to serve up job ads like these that are a little more targeted than the current ads we have. So currently we kind of only target our ads based on the city that you choose. But in the future, we want to feed more data into this, like, for example, whether or not you're actively looking for jobs is probably a good one. What type of jobs you're looking for, the job title you have. So, for example, I probably wouldn't be interested in a marketing program manager job, but there are loads of jobs in Charlotte that I might be interested in. If, for example, I was, an illustrator, I wouldn't want to see these jobs. I'm a developer, I don't want to see these jobs. I'm a designer, a marketing job isn't great for me. So we're building a microservice that will consume this same feed of jobs that we've been using in the past and filter it using some dynamic sort of API parameters to display jobs that are relevant to the currently logged in user, which is me in this case. Or when we have anonymous users, we'll use a more generic approach like we're using now. But we have the ability to do this, we want to do this, and we think that it's an important feature to add to this. So initially the stream started, I built a very simple Node app that consumed a web API and spat out a static React component. Over the past few weeks, we've gone from that to building up essentially a complete React application. It started to get overly complicated and beyond the scope of what I had initially imagined pretty quickly, and so we rebuilt it and reimagined it as a Create React app that's going to live within an iframe on the site that will essentially replace this sector on the page. So this will disappear, this whole find work blob, and in its place will appear the job module that we're building now within an iframe. So where are we? Well, last week we built out dynamic routing for the service that lets you pass in a latitude and longitude and see jobs that are relevant to that latitude and longitude. We also have market IDs that we service. So I built out a parallel API that will just take in a market ID and give you the jobs relevant to that market. Both really under the covers do the same thing, just with latitude and longitude we infer the nearest market and use those. Let's see, we started to build out some of the logic to switch between the two and do some error checking and this and that. Well, I have good news and I have bad news. This week I hope to improve on that. And that's the good news, I guess. The bad news is that I just fired up the app in between, or while I was getting set up for the stream here, and I found that it's broken. So I haven't touched this since last week. I just committed the code I was working on and pushed that up to GitHub. But this must mean that something has changed or that we didn't consider something when we were building this out last time. So let's figure out what's going on there and get to the root of this. So the error that we're getting is that the market dropdown is crashing because I'm trying to read property ID of undefined, meaning the market isn't defined, and so I can't read an ID off of a market if it's not defined, and so we have to figure out why that's happening. So I'm going to switch over to my IDE here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it and reconfigure the whole window situation here, because that takes away a bunch of real estate for me. And now we'll figure out what's going on and what's best to do here. Oh, right. Actually, before I forget, I wonder if I can do this while I'm on the stream here. I'm going to move my own image up here. Hopefully that worked. Someone mentioned recently that this is probably the best place on screen for my picture to be, because when I'm using the inspector on the web, that picture is blocking off interesting content, things that I talk about frequently, and it's much less likely that there's going to be something up in this area of the screen that you'll want to see. So I'll do my best to remember not to just point recklessly up here. Okay, so let's go back to the browser again. On here in the market dropdown, market ID is nothing. So market dropdown. So we can see we're referencing it in the render bit. We're pulling market from state, and what's happening is the market is being set initially, well, really to nothing. So in some cases, if there's no match and match params, oh, I see. That's because I didn't put in a latitude and longitude here. Got it. Okay. Well, so here's what we're going to do just to be safe. This is a good thing I did, actually. Just to be safe, I'm going to give this a default market. So we need to grab that from the constants file. So grab these markets and let's go into that constants file. I think 60 is the default that we want to use, but I will explain. So we have this array of things, which really, using them as, yeah, okay, kind of a frustrating way to do this, but I want to use Boston as the default. It's 10. Okay. Boston is just kind of the default that we've chosen, in part because our HQ is in Boston, in no small part because our HQ is in Boston. So now this should default to market of Boston, which is great. And then if we provide more parameters in the URL, it should go past that. So if, for example, I gave it my local Charlotte ID, lovely. Okay, cool. So it wasn't as broken as I thought. Ooh, we're getting some warnings though. Let's figure out what those mean. It's got a mix of ands and ors that it's not happy with. Line 80. Ah. There we go. Just fixing a little ternary operator there. Okay, so now that's back to normal. That was easy. That was actually a nice simple fix, and totally makes sense. For the remainder of the stream, I'm going to use this 61 for my local Charlotte ID here. But what we are going to do now is build out a few different views of these jobs that render differently depending on whether we want it to show up here, so as a little title and city on the sort of side there, and on the home page. Oh dear, this might get problematic. Let's see. On the home page, we have a different template, so it's an orange title and a grayish. Well, actually, this is the same content. Okay, so we might get a little creative and see what we can do to show more or less data. What I know for sure is right now we don't need to display all of this nonsense, which we're currently doing. And I also want to prove that we can set up multiple templates to reference by the same URL with different URL parameters. I guess that might not technically be the same URL, but at a similar URL. So here we go. Okay. So the job listing component here is the one that renders each job. Right now it has the title and a header and an anchor tag that displays the job ID as a link so that we can get to that job. That's not the best way to do it, but okay. Actually, before I do that, I want to fix this warning that's been here forever. So in my debug console, you see that this is yelling at me about generate UTM slug is defined but never used. That's because it's defined in this file, generate UTM slug, but I don't need it in this file. I need it in this file. And so it's used here. It's already used. Yeah, great. Okay. So now that warning should be gone. Man, another easy fix. I should have done that a while ago. Okay, so now we have no warnings. Now I want to start making all of this stuff a little nicer. So we're going to reconfigure how some of this stuff works. I'm first going to mimic exactly what's shown, well, on either of these templates that we have. So essentially just the job title and whatever is listed for the city. And ooh, what did I do? That's not what I wanted. That's also not what I wanted. Boy, inside of this, our new template, we're going to render it just like it's shown in here. So it'll be well, actually, we might recreate this entire interface by with semantic markup only. So I'm not going to worry about CSS for now, because I believe that by embedding these in iframe with the right parameters, the CSS will override what's displayed there. So first I'm going to start with an individual job post, and that's easy to do. We can see that the outermost bit is an anchor. It's even a list item. Okay, so we're going to replicate exactly what's there. It's going to require some changes on lots of fronts here, because you can't just render a list item inside of nothing. This probably means it will see bullets on the browser window for a bit. Yeah, that's cool. Each of these are a list item. Inside of the list item, there's going to be an anchor with the link. And we probably want to have this open in a new tab. So we'll go back to the job listing here. We're going to take this and level it, or move it outside and wrap the whole thing with this. I know that I don't want the description, so that's going to go. I don't want the job ID either. I want the job title. That is inside of a bold tag, B tag. I don't know if that's technically bold, but we'll do that. We're going to skip a few of the... We might skip this for now in the name of trying a different approach to structuring these. And then it's got the jobs market or city. That must be city. So let me save this and show you what we have now. It's a much simpler view. In fact, there are only 4 jobs. Not really sure why that's the case. Might just be only a few listed right now in Charlotte, given the settings that we've got. I think actually the page size is probably pretty small too. Also completely okay. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, okay, so there must not be a ton of openings. No, that's interesting. It doesn't seem to be showing 10 on the first load. And if I switch it to Osaka, there's none there. In Austin. Huh, something funny's happening. We'll work with that. Looks like there's some statefulness that's missing on this job list. Okay, so we have the job title. I'm going to put a debugger line in here so we can figure out which other property we need to render. And we're going to grab this job, and we want it to say the geocode city might be right. Market ID. So the API we're using in particular is a little bit annoying to use because it's inconsistent. In other words, where this data comes from might not be the same across jobs. But it looks like we can rely on geocode city and then geocode state if it exists. Okay, let's try that. So it's job dot all lowercase geocode, uppercase city, etc. What kind of a tag is this in? An M. Do this. It's like job dot geocode city, and then job.geocode state, if it exists, we'll render that with a comma before it and a space. Otherwise, we're not going to render anything. How do we do? Let's get rid of this debugger. Okay. Lovely. All right. So that looks about right. So just to reiterate, I've got a list item, an anchor tag, a bold, and an M tag. And now I've got list item, anchor, bold, and M. That's great. Everything, let me just double, triple show you this. Okay, that's really cool. So now we're going to work on, let's see. There's a lot of different ways I could take this. I'm going to wrap some of this content in here. So it looks like there's a couple of bugs having to do with this changing and not reloading correctly, or it's not loading correctly on the first go, which is not good. And that's also always going back to Charlotte, which is not helpful. So let's go back to the job list component and figure out what's going on there. Market dropdown, initial market ID is that. On market changed. Cool. We must not be setting a state with that market as apropos. Oh yeah, that's exactly right. So I think this will fix that. Nope. That got weirder. Confusing. All right, let's walk through the logic for what happens here. So this component is passed in a prop, which represents the initial market that this thing is rendered with. Okay, we're gonna have to go up a few levels to fix a few things here. But what this is saying is, if it's passed an initial market ID, we get the market from that ID, which is a function we've tested before. We set the state of this thing. Oh, I didn't do that. That one's still weird. I don't know why Charlotte is rendering as Boston jobs. That's one we need to figure out. We're going to put in some console logs here and see what's going on. So this will fire when I change the market. Ooh, market ID. Okay, that's correct. Very weird. This does seem to be saying Charlotte, but it's only showing jobs for Boston. No. Because that's definitely a Charlotte job. Oh boy, it's possible that this is just bad metadata. Yeah. What a weird case. So, this is what I was talking about before with bad. Like, this is very frustrating. So what you get out of this API is really what you get. Whoever did the data entry for this added it as a. The geocode for this job is Boston, but it's clearly a job in Charlotte. You can see in the description. Fortune 500 financial service operation in Charlotte, blah, 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 blah. But the geocode is set to Boston and Massachusetts. So maybe we should default to market ID, which seems to be coming through as a string. Okay, so we're going to do some calculations here. Determine the city to display on this job. Note. Geocode city is unreliable, but a reasonable fallback. We will display the job.city if it is not a string and not parsable as a number. Okay, so was what it was? No. Market ID. Market ID. Weird that that's not an ID, but that's okay. If job city, let's see. Parse int job.city. Is a base 10. So we want to make sure it's not a number. Let's do some playing around with this. So I forget how parse int works. So we're going to make a JS bin and just play around with that. Goodbye. Okay. I just want to see the outputs from this thing. Oh, is that? Okay, great. That's what we want to do. So we're going to say is not a number. We will, so if it is a number, we will use the geocode data. So this is saying if it's not a number, then we should use it. So we're going to say if it is not a number, which is even more infuriating, we're going to say job city equals job.geocode city. Well, we're going to rename this. We're going to put city and state in here. So job location. Okay, great. So if we can't use the market ID as a string, we're just going to use this. Job.geocode city. Plus go. And now down here, we're just going to display the location. Which will be the market ID. Unless the market ID is a number, then it'll be the geocode stuff, and that's probably the best ever we can do. Yeah, now they say Charlotte. Sometimes they say Charlotte NC, which is even weirder. I don't. I mean, that's what you get. I don't know. Don't know what else to tell you. Okay. That's one bug we've now worked around. We don't currently have jobs in Osaka. We do in Indianapolis. Wondering why. Must be printing twice. That's fine. Okay, I don't need this any longer. Great. So that's lovely. We've done the thing. These links still work. I can navigate around. So in a pinch, this would work to replace this stuff here. I haven't put in the bootstrap classes, which I could do all the same. Somewhat intentionally, I was thinking I might play around with using a flex display for these to make these render just as well, but you know, I think I should just replicate what's there, because one of the things I want to try and do is just drop these into place as an iframe and see if it'll work. So I have to do a couple things here. This is going to look a little funny if you haven't seen it before, but in React, you specify CSS classes using class name, which renders down to a class as you would expect it to. So I'll show you here. This list item will have a class of row once I hit save and it reloads. So now it has a class of row. That's just a thing to get used to with React. Set the classes for these. To be honest, I forget why that's the case, but that's all right. So those now match precisely the markup from the jobs being rendered elsewhere. We can start to wrap it in. So these are the job listings. We've done that. The CSS rules will take care of the display and like these lines below and above. On the actual job list itself, I need to replicate this and that and the button and some copy. Let's start in on that. So we'll go from the top down. Find work is in a header and then an H2. Okay. Below that we have a P. The copy for this stuff might change later on. That's not a big deal. Then we've got our market drop down, which looks like it's in the header. Is that correct? No, it's not. Now we've got the drop down. It comes with a nice button that says View Jobs, which we can still do. Oh yeah, one of the things I need to do is figure out how to nicely display these. Right now they're pretty poorly done. Let's fix that up. Let's come back here. Yeah. To start, at least, I'm going to I think there's a sort by. Yeah, okay. Let's look up how to do that. Cool. So we're going to sort our markets by name. Nice. At least those are now displayed in order. Better than nothing. I can make this a little easier to read on myself by providing a little more structure here. All right. We've got a title, we've got the subtitle, we have this. We don't yet have the button or this. Is in an H3. Okay, lots to do here. So this whole thing is wrapped in a form. Got our header, and it's followed by a form. Form with no class set. That's funny. Okay. Class set to true, weirdly enough. So I'll wrap this whole shebang in a form. What I'm doing now is just making this match the markup that's there. That wraps just this guy and its button. So to be honest, I might move this within there eventually. But it'll start this way. Then we're going to have a section called the job board. Oops, I have to remember to do class name. Section has an H3, which I just made far too large. That's okay. This is going to say viewing jobs in. And then a var. So say viewing jobs in, then have an intentional space, and then this guy, which will just have the variable in it. And all that fits inside the H3. That should render roughly the same. Viewing jobs in var class job location Charlotte. Cool. And then ye olde ellipsis. Okay. Great. We'll get this button in here next. So let's go into this market drop-down control. This will change some of the behavior of this dropdown, and that's perfectly fine. Rendering a React.fragment as the root of this component will let me render two different HTML tags side by side. Otherwise, React components well, no matter what, React components only allow one parent, or one an individual React component has to render a single thing. So the tree has to be one node, and React.fragment is a shortcut to be able to do that. So to render things side by side is the root. Kind of a special case, not a super complicated concept, although surprisingly difficult to explain. Okay, I've got this button. Now the trick here is that this button has to replace this onChange behavior. Okay, little problem here. All of this logic needs to go out of here to determine cool. Okay, so what I just did is before I was making sure that there was a props applied to this thing called onMarketChange that was of type function before doing any of this logic, and that's actually not what I want to do. I want to do pull all of this logic no matter what, but fire the appropriate callback only if there's a callback to be fired, essentially. Just a minor logic change. Ooh, okay. Element type's invalid. Expected a string. Check the render method of market dropdown. Interesting. What did I change? I think this might need to be capitalized. Nice. Okay. Great. So we're getting closer. I should see if this still works. Ooh. Okay. That is subtle. So I need to leave an onChanged here. And we're going to break this up into two different things. Yeah, okay, and I'm just going to move this here. We might need to rename that prop, though. So this is updating the state. In other words, when something is selected by the select bit, oops. So when this is changed, it updates the state of this, which continues to render the right new location. When I hit view jobs, it will fire the callback for this saying view jobs in Connecticut. Oh, but I need to So this is saying don't submit the form like you would expect to. We want to intercept that and run our own behavior. So we still have semantically correct HTML, it's just not doing the standard HTML behavior of submitting this form when I hit the button. Great, okay. I think I still want to change the property that's coming in. We're going to call this onView. Well, I'm going to rename it. To onView jobs clicked. Should change here. Should change there. And there. Great. Okay. I think I didn't break anything there. Refresh this thing. Nothing in the console. Yeah, okay. Just change the name of that parameter to be a little more straightforward and logical. Okay. So, what do we have? We have this form, which the HTML of it looks a lot like this form here. The button is correct, that H3 is correct. We need to do this bottom bit. This is rendered as a row. Within the section. So there's the list, then we have a div, row, and we'll say some link here. I do think I can improve on this link here. Copy link address. Let's see. We're going to improve on that link a little bit because this is not a city-specific link. So why does that say 61? What? Oh, okay. What is the idea? ID. So we're going to say K equals, I don't know what that's doing. Oh, that's the keyword. Okay. Then we're going to say L equals market.id. And UTM source, blah, 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 blah. All these nice things. this link should bring me to jobs in Charlotte. Yeah, cool. Okay, lovely. What other markup might I be missing here? This little arrow. Do all jobs in. Drop in my little arrow. And now I get to copy this blurb. This is just static markup, which happens in an article, in a div, let's see, in a div just before the end of the article. Just going to clean this up like I do. Some of this is preference, doesn't necessarily, ooh. Okay. Nice. Okay, so now all this content matches this content here. Okay, in theory, now I can embed this in a page and start playing around with styles in the iframe. So let's do that. Boy, this might really crunch my dev environment. Well, it might crunch my stream, is what I mean to say. Oh dear, and I lost. Something disappeared. Yeah, that's gone. Okay. Everything's breaking. Hang on a second. Okay, so in this tab, is where we're running the handy dandy job microservice. Still works, still runs. I put a class somewhere. Okay. Good, that still runs. So in this tab we're running that. Now I need to fire up my VM. So hang on a second. This is where things might start to slow down a bit. Boy. I need to put in a password, hang on. Just grabbing my handy dandy password manager here. Okay. Good, and I'm back. Stale file handle. Oh man. Sorry, need to boot the VM again. This is one of the things I get to deal with because I'm juggling a few different VMs right now. It happens fairly regularly. Pop in my password again. Oops. Okay. Now with any luck, this thing will fire up, and I can go into my dashboard. Fine. Give it a second. Boy, it's much slower than it usually is when I'm on stream. Okay. Now, if that worked and my VM isn't suffering too hard, I should be able to, in a tab, pull up. Oh boy. Okay. Hold that thought. Oh, yes. Yeah. Ran it with the wrong command. Okay, bear with me a minute while I consult my old user manual here, aka Slack, where I've got a saved command that will help me out here. Okay. There are a couple different ways around this. We're going to do this the ugly way. Right. What did I do? Okay, there we go. So. Excuse me, sorry. I didn't actually think we'd get this far on the stream today, so I'm in the middle of work on another branch. Which is making a right mess of things. Oh my god. Some of the stuff I can't show on screen because it's sensitive IDs and the like. No starting keyword if found for indif in file, blah, 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 blah. How about now? No? Oh. I really need to uninstall Prettier. Let's do that. Oh, for frick's sake. What's happening is every time I save this file, Prettier is overriding my syntax and really messing up my Django stuff here, and it is running amok. Let's try that. Okay. Thank God. Okay, now we're back in business. Goodness. All right. Sorry about that detour. Frustrating though it may have been. Installing Prettier was a fun decision at the time and something I'm not getting along with well now. So, where were I? What I want to do is log in. Get to my dashboard. And we're going to embed that iframe right here. All right, here goes nothing. So, syntax for an iframe, something I don't do often. Let's look at it. iframe source equals thing. We're going to start by embedding oh, for crying out loud. Do you see that every time I hit save? Fuck. Prettier is not helping me here. Stop, man. How do I disable that? Oh. This is going to be so annoying. I don't think I can actually save this without breaking this page. Let's see. Okay, well, we're getting closer. Well, there's a start to it. Nice. Okay. This is kind of the general gist of it. We need to flatten out this iframe and do a bunch of other formatting. I want to try a few different things. I wonder if okay, so we're going to say not supported in HTML5. This is probably done via CSS. Okay, now it's flat. Now it's using our style rules. That's a good start. There's some scrolling issues here. Already getting there, though. So that's pretty good. It's not perfect. There's obviously some things that are missing because this is incorrect. The display of this is incorrect, and obviously this scroll issue is bad. But you can see this coming together pretty well. That's actually... No, actually, this isn't taking on the right typefaces yet. Okay. More things to figure out. Let's look at the sandbox property. Okay, we don't want to use sandbox. Let's see about this scrolling. Well, now it just won't scroll. Now it scrolls because it's too long. That was cool. I don't know about this property, but that might be what we need. Okay. That's not what I wanted. I want to get rid of that scroll. So we're going to say scroll no. Come on. Never seen that property before. Interesting though. These, of course, will have to go into a into CSS somewhere. Wait, did I misspell that? Oh, I did it for width. Okay. Okay. We're getting close now. Some gap here. That's not great. And it's... Do any of these things work? No. Weird. Well, I've got some figuring to do here. I don't really know the best answer to this. I'm gonna have to go and ask the experts on this in some sense. There are other ways we could get this done, but I feel like this will be the nicest way to do it in the end. I need to figure out how to get these styles passed across. I also need to figure out how to make the height of this iframe more flexible, because this is not great right now. And we will be able to do that, I'm sure. Where there's a will, there's a way. It might take another approach to rendering the page or the content from the page, and that's fine too. But it's a start. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to call it quits for the stream for the week. I'm going to do some research on this, and I'll come back next week, and we'll work on getting these to display the way they should, and generally cleaning it up. I would say probably the height issue is going to be the most challenging to figure out here, because I don't anticipate the CSS will either be you can pass it through, or I need to embed those CSS rules in the React app, and neither one of those is truly a big deal. So, yeah, that's it for the day. Thanks for hanging out. You can find me on Twitter at IrreverentMike. You can email me at mbyfolko@aquint.com, or you can find us here next week on thegymnasium.com, same time, same place. I will see you then.